Warning: this video contains descriptions that some may find upsetting. Viewer discretion is advised. Okinawa, Japan. Today it is widely regarded as one of the healthiest places on Earth, with the largest per capita population of centenarians. However, underneath the serene beauty that's keeping so many people living longer is a dark and bloody history. And that history doesn't go back that far in time. During World War II, this island paradise was the site of one of the bloodiest battles of the war. Hundreds of thousands died during a brutal 3-month campaign. Some historians estimate that 1 in 4 Okinawan civilians did not survive it. It is a death toll that is hard to comprehend, but it happened. When a place absorbs that kind of suffering into its soil, into its caves, into its very air, something stays behind. Or so the people who live there, who work there, and who visit there will tell you. Okinawa is considered both by paranormal researchers and by the United States military as the single most haunted location under American military jurisdiction in the world. The hauntings are documented by soldiers, airmen, Marines, and their families, people who, in many cases, had no interest in the paranormal whatsoever. People who were simply there and experienced something they cannot easily explain. Kadena Air Base sits in the central part of Okinawa's main island. It is the largest U.S. Air Force base in Asia, home to thousands of personnel and their families. It is also, by an overwhelming margin of documented accounts, one of the most aggressively haunted military installations on the planet. Some of the people who have served at Kadena Air Base will tell you about the night they heard something in an empty house, or about the face they saw through the window of a building with no occupants, or about the figure that appeared at the gate and was gone before the next rotation of guards came through. Some of them say they didn't believe in ghosts before they got there and started believing in them before they left. The most infamous single location on Kadena was a housing unit designated Building 2283. It was demolished by the Air Force at some point after its reputation made it impossible to keep in service. What happened inside those walls across the years, it existed goes well beyond the kind of vague unease that surrounds most allegedly haunted places. The first documented incident at Building 2283 took place sometime in the 1970s. A family stationed there ended in violence, a murder followed by a self-inflicted death. No cause was ever officially explained. Within a relatively short period, a second family was assigned to the building. The same thing happened. When the Air Force could no longer ignore the pattern, they stopped assigning families to the building altogether. It was left empty, but the activity did not stop. Neighbors and passersby reported hearing children crying inside the house. There was ghostly laughter, the sound of a woman washing her hair in a sink. People described these sounds with specificity because they were not ambiguous. They were sounds with texture and direction, and they were coming from a building with no occupants. The daycare center adjacent to the property provided one of the stranger pieces of testimony. Staff there reportedly described children at the facility throwing toys over the fence to other children on the opposite side. Children who, when staff went to investigate, were simply not there. Author Jane Hitchcock, who lived on Okinawa between 1992 and 1995 and wrote extensively about its ghost culture, eventually visited Building 2283 at night with a small group of psychically sensitive companions. What emerged from that visit, in her account, included the presence of multiple spirits inside the house. A little boy and girl who had been playing together for years, unaware they were dead. An entity described as a samurai on horseback, moving through the living room. And a spirit named Mike, described in previous encounters as a protective presence, who had apparently traveled to this location specifically to guard the living visitors from the other entities inside. The group left and never returned. The Air Force is said to have stopped even trying to find explanations for what was happening. They sealed the building, eventually tore it down, and the parcel of land where it stood carries a reputation that still circulates among base personnel today. Near Kadena's Banyan Tree Golf Course, there is a cave. The entrance was sealed long ago and is covered now in vines. Locals will not approach it. Many of them will not go near the golf course at all if they can avoid it. During the Battle of Okinawa, that cave served as a Japanese field hospital. When American forces captured the surrounding area and defeat became unavoidable, a group of Japanese nurses retreated into the cave. The accounts vary on the exact number, but the figure most often cited is 17. Terrified of what surrender or capture might bring, they died inside that cave. Some accounts say they took their own lives. Others say they simply could not get out. What followed was decades of reported encounters with the spirits of those nurses. Locals describe them as angry, protective of the space they died in. Several witnesses over the years have reported seeing figures in wartime nursing attire near the cave entrance, particularly at night. This location connects directly to a broader pattern of haunting centered on the women who died in Okinawa's caves and on its cliffs. That pattern is most powerfully embodied in the story of the hymn Ayuri. They were high school students, girls between the ages of 15 and 19, recruited from the Okinawa First Girls High School and the Okinawa Women's Normal School. They were deployed to help the wounded directly in underground caves, serving as makeshift hospitals. In the early hours of June 19th, 46 hymn Ayuri students and 5 of their teachers were sheltering in the Ihara 3rd Surgical Cave when American forces, unaware of who was inside, attacked the entrance with white phosphorus munitions. In total, 211 students and 16 teachers lost their lives during the Battle of Okinawa. The paranormal legacy of the hymn Ayuri is felt across southern Okinawa. At Maeda Point, a coastal cliff that served as yet another Japanese field hospital location during the battle, women's ghosts in wartime dress have been reported with enough frequency and enough detail to constitute a documented phenomenon. Specifically, American men walking alone at Maeda Point at night have reported encounters with these apparitions. The spirits are described as hostile, consumed with anger. Multiple witnesses have described the sensation of being physically pushed toward the cliff edge. There are several documented accounts from U.S. servicemen who refused to return to that stretch of coastline after their encounters there. At Maeda Point, a separate figure also appears with some regularity. An elderly Okinawan man seen walking near a tomb at the water's edge. Local belief holds that when this figure appears, a body will wash ashore within days. The figure is seen as a warning, a signal from whatever lies beyond that the sea is about to return someone's son or daughter. Divers in the waters below the cliffs have reported their own experiences. Multiple accounts describe the sensation of figures in the water nearby, shapes that move but carry no current with them. In some accounts, figures appear to be jumping from the cliffs above, over and over, with no surface ever reached. There is a stretch of road in Okinawa's Yamaton village that locals simply call the SSS curve. The name comes from the shape of the road itself, a series of tight serpentine bends that wind through terrain that saw sustained combat in 1945. SSS Curve has been identified as one of the primary training areas for the Yuta, the traditional shamans of the Ryukyu Islands. The Yuta communicate with spirits, mediate between the living and the dead, and advise families on matters of ancestral appeasement. When the Yuta used SSS Curve as a training ground, it was because the spiritual concentration there was strong enough to be educational. Multiple Yuta are reported to have lost their lives at SSS Curve, not from accidents, from the forces they encountered there. Visitors to the road, including multiple Japanese paranormal television crews who have filmed there over the years, report consistent physical symptoms: nausea, dizziness, a sensation of pressure on the body, specifically the feeling of hands or fingers making contact with skin. Some visitors report an inability to move. Others describe a sudden and overwhelming sense of grief that is not their own, as if the emotional residue of mass death has soaked into the hillside and can be accessed by anyone who passes through. The sign posted by local authorities at the entrance to SSS Curve warns people not to enter. Camp Hansen is a United States Marine Corps base in central Okinawa, housing more than 6,000 Marines. It draws a specific and recurring account from personnel who have served there. A lone soldier appears on the base grounds in the hours of darkness. He wears blood-stained fatigues from the Second World War era. He approaches personnel and asks for a cigarette. This account has been reported at multiple locations across Okinawa, not only at Camp Hansen. At the main gate of another Kadena facility, guards on night duty for years reported consistent encounters with a figure in World War II Marine Corps uniform. The figure was always described the same way: bloodied, wounded, coming to the guardhouse and asking for a light. When the light was given, the figure disappeared. This reportedly occurred with enough regularity enough weekend after weekend, that it became something the guards discussed openly. At Kadina's banyan tree area, a separate set of accounts involves the guardhouse at what was formerly Gate 2. Guards stationed there over the years described groups of Japanese soldiers at the gate. Soldiers in Imperial Japanese Army uniform from the war period. Multiple witnesses described the figures as a formation, not a single apparition. A whole unit, standing at the gate. Their presence was described as disturbing precisely because, as one account put it, they were from the war and might not know it was over. One night, an Air Force security officer decided to stake out a grassy clearing on the base that had developed a particular reputation. The clearing is in a restricted area, away from the public zones of the base. What he encountered, according to his account, was an entire regiment of Japanese soldiers in formation, marching directly toward his vehicle. He attempted to drive and, in his panic, drove through the formation. He refused to patrol that area again and reportedly told others that what he saw was not a handful of figures. It was hundreds of them. In the Kitanakagusuku district of Okinawa, a crumbling concrete structure rises from the hillside just 50 meters from the ancient walls of Nakagusuku Castle. It has no roof in sections. Its floors have partially collapsed. Vegetation has forced its way through the walls. These are the remains of the Nakagusuku Hotel. Construction on the hotel began in the 1970s. The site was chosen for its elevation and its view of both the castle and the surrounding coastline. What the developers appear not to have adequately accounted for was what lay beneath the ground. Graves. As excavation and construction proceeded, workers began reporting accidents at an unusual rate. Equipment malfunctioned and broke down without explanation. Workers quit. Some refused to return to the site after certain shifts. The local community pushed back, warning the developers that the land was spiritually compromised. Buddhist monks were brought in, but the accounts suggest their involvement was either too late or too limited to change what was already in motion. Construction stopped. The hotel was never completed. The developer walked away. The structure has been left standing as it was when the work ceased, weathered by decades of Okinawa's subtropical climate. What the ruin left behind is one of the most visited ghost sites in southern Japan. Visitors and investigators report disembodied voices moving through the empty corridors. Figures visible in upper floors where the floor structure has partially given way. Cold spots that appear and vanish without explanation. Photographs taken inside the ruins have returned images with shapes and forms that were not visible to the photographers at the time of capture. The most cited account connected to Nakagusuku involves a man identified in Japanese newspaper coverage of the time only as Mr. Tanaka. He reportedly visited the ruins out of curiosity and was subsequently committed to a psychiatric facility. The accounts from that period describe him as having been overwhelmed by something inside the structure. The specific language used in those accounts described his spirit as having been destroyed, occupied by too many presences at once. The proximity of the ruins to Nakagusuku Castle may have some relevance. The castle itself dates to the 14th century and carries its own history of conflict and death. The accumulated spiritual weight of both locations, the medieval fortress and the modern ruin, has made this hillside in Kitanakagusuku one of the most actively discussed paranormal sites in all of Japan. The Ryukyu Islands, of which Okinawa is the largest, have maintained a belief system regarding the spirit world that is distinct from both mainland Japanese Shinto tradition and from the Buddhism that spread across Japan in the centuries following its introduction. In the Ryukyuan worldview, the boundary between the living and the dead is a managed space, not a sealed door. Ancestors do not simply depart. They remain present, require attention, and respond when ignored. The Yuta are consulted by ordinary families on matters ranging from illness to property disputes, because property disputes in Okinawa can sometimes be disputes about whose ancestral spirits are attached to a given piece of land. After the Battle of Okinawa, the Yuta played a documented role in attempting to address the catastrophic spiritual fallout of the mass death the island had absorbed. That approach reflects a fundamental difference in how the haunted landscape of Okinawa is understood locally versus how it is often understood by outsiders. American service members posted to Kadena or Hansen or the other bases on the island encounter what they describe as hauntings. They use the framework of fear, because that is the cultural language available to them for this kind of experience. Okinawans, by contrast, tend to describe the same phenomena in terms of restlessness, incompletion, and neglect. Spirits who have not been properly acknowledged. Dead who were never given the ceremonial recognition that would allow them to settle. Given the sheer scale of what happened here, given the 240,000 who died in 82 days with no time for proper burial, no time for ceremony, no time for anything but survival, and then more death, the backlog of unacknowledged dead is staggering by any calculation. The cornerstone of Peace Memorial at Mabuni is a park of stone slabs facing the sea. More than 240,000 names are inscribed on those slabs. Military and civilian, Japanese and foreign. The inscriptions do not distinguish between the two. The dead are recorded together because they died together, mixed into the same geography, the same blood, the same impossible event. People who visit the memorial today describe an atmosphere that is not simply somber. It is inhabited. Multiple visitors over the years have described the sensation of being watched from the water, a feeling of crowding despite standing in open space. Some have described hearing sounds over the wind that carry a quality distinct from the environment, voices, not clear enough to understand, but human in cadence. The local response to these accounts is consistent acknowledgement, paired with a request that visitors behave accordingly. Leave an offering. Speak quietly. Do not take stones or soil from the area. Do not take photographs at night without thought for who might be in them. Perhaps it is fitting that after so much death and violence, this island with such a mystical reputation has become a place where those spirits now roam searching for peace. Subscribe to Paranormal Depths for the strangest and most compelling cases from around the world.